after I graduated, I didn't want to get a loan to go to law school. I'm honestly learning. And one of the things I did, especially with Anna God, I realized last year that this wasn't going to work.
Yes, you heard the what's, but many of us don't sit still enough and long enough to hear the why, the how, the when. What else?
I actually found out that the main reason he actually wanted a divorce is because he was having an affair with my best friend. And with my healing.
Hi guys, welcome back to the MoChunks show, where we inspire and educate you to live well and thrive in your faith, career and relationships. I am hiding my nails right now because they look a mess. But yeah, so you see me just putting my hand here, that's the reason we're using style. But welcome back to the MoChunks show, where we inspire and educate you to live well and thrive in your faith, career and relationships. And as you can see, we have a wonderful guest in the studio today. We have the beautiful, wonderful, amiable, admirable Tosin in the building today. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. And slightly different studio. As you guys know, that I am in a different season of my life where I'm balancing content creation and, you know, the corporate life. I'm balancing that together. And I'm filming after work today. This is my first time filming after work, as opposed to when I was fully freelance and I'd like film during the day and I'd have like a filming day.
Yeah.
Now we have a filming evening. But it's okay. By the grace of God, we're rocking with the season that we're in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tosin, for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
On
Such
this
an honor.
episode today. We're going to have a wonderful conversation with Tosin in a moment about her journey, her faith, her career, and experiences with relationships as well. Yeah. But before we go into that, we like to have a nice little catch up in a segment called BestIn.
Okay.
So it's like a segment like you tell me your favorite thing from the week.
Oh,
yeah. So like
gosh,
you know, like it's a Nigerian phrase, like best in fashion. Best in podcasts, best in anything. So best in anything that's been your favorite thing from the week.
I think my best thing has to be I started reading a book called Connecting with God by Susan Debras.
Okay.
Actually.
Oh, yes. I saw the release.
The release of the book. So I went on like a 2-hour walk yesterday. Went to the park. I needed to clear my head. It's been a heavy week. Just a lot of things going on family-wise. So I was just like, you know what, I just need to clear my head. So went on this 2-hour walk, got to this park, sat down, took the book with me. I'd bought it for a while, but I just hadn't started reading it yet. And I started reading the book, and honestly, I just felt like the weight of everything I'd been feeling for a couple of days, but especially from Sunday was just lifted. And the book really is what the title is, which is Connecting with God. And so I think that's probably my favorite. I felt like I just had an encounter in that moment. Just reading just a few pages into the book, actually, and it allows you, there's like space for you to like journal and write some things that you're thinking about. And I felt like I just had an encounter with God in that moment, and then I was just like, you know what, it's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be okay. So I guess that has to be my favorite thing.
First of all, I'm amazed and happy for you that you had that moment.
Thank you.
Susan is really great. She does a lot of work surrounding faith and really helping you to connect. So like the book is perfect. I think it's a re-release, right?
It's a re-release,
beautiful. For me, so Best in Books for yourself, Connecting with God. Check it out by Susan Debras. My best in is Best in Vacation.
Oh, of course.
I just came back from holiday and I had the best time. Vlog is coming, guys, don't worry. I've already uploaded bits and pieces onto the socials, but the vlog will definitely come eventually as well. I went to Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, and it was fantastic.
We saw.
It was so good. Like I'm still so tired. I landed Thursday morning and I've tried to rest, but it hasn't really been it's not been working.
worked.
The rest has not been resting. I've, gone straight back to work as well the following day. And then on the weekend, I had bits and pieces to do socially as well. And of course, it's a new week as well. So, and then I'm hosting this weekend as well. So I don't know how I'm going to cope. Maybe I can take Monday off.
Yeah.
Is my plan.
You need a day.
Yeah, I need a day to just do nothing.
Yeah.
But best in vacation, I went to Dominican Republic, prompted by my sister.
Aww.
So she turned 21 out there, and my friend
so it was
also.
Like a birthday.
It was a birthday vacation.
Getaway. Yeah. Oh, nice.
But also, my sisters and I have two sisters, and we've been wanting. I have a brother as well, but two sisters. We've been wanting to go on a sistercation for a while. Like there's girls trips, sistercation. We want
when
to
it finally makes it out of the group chat.
Exactly. We've been talking about it for a while. And this year we were like, you know what, let's just go. And then my other friend as well, Maria, she turned 30 out there as well. She kind of messaged me and said she really wants to wake up on an island on her birthday. Yeah, so I was like, let me see if I can mix it, because we can't be spending money on two massive holidays like that. So I spoke to my sisters and I said,
economy.
Yeah, I said, let's be wise. I said to my sisters, would you be interested, or would you mind if my friend came on the holiday with her friends? And I said to her as well, would you mind coming on ours? So it's like a mixture of a sistercation and a girls trip, 2 in 1, all join.
Yeah.
So 21st birthday and 30th birthday trip, and I also really needed a good holiday. I think it was just perfect timing, because this year has been quite busy for me as well. But yeah, I've rambled on a lot, but I really wanted to share with you guys that I had the best time on holiday.
We were not jealous.
Yeah, if you're if you're on my Instagram, definitely have a look at the highlights. But I vlogged as well, and I'm excited to share that with you guys eventually. Okay, so Tosin, we're gonna go into yourself now, into your journey.
Yes.
I've known of you, like every single one of my guests. I always have this moment where I tell them, I've known you, and I've followed your work for a minute. I think I've definitely seen you speak at events and caught little snippets, and thought this would be nice. I think a couple of years ago, this would be nice she'll be nice to have on the show, to talk about certain things. And to glory of God, we're setting it up now.
Yeah.
But I was like, what does she do beyond ministry?
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, as I was thinking that, you posted on your story about what you do corporately.
Yeah.
It's like a little snippet.
Little glimpse.
I was like, okay. I knew there was more to her, but I was trying to find out what it was.
Yeah.
But of course, sometimes we keep certain things off the internet for various reasons. So the first question is, please tell us about yourself and what you do.
Okay. Gosh, this is like the most difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
When someone tell me about yourself,
I can make it more specific if you want.
Okay, yes, please help me.
So if you were to describe yourself, and obviously there's who we are, like I'm a kind person, I'm a this, I'm a that, but there's also the things we do. So if you're a doctor, I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
Tell us in that kind of way what you do. Generally, holistically.
Okay, so I do a mixture of a few things, but I'll kind of split it. And people are a bit funny about splitting things into two in this way, but I think just for ease. So I'm in ministry, but I'm also in the marketplace / corporate sector. So I am an ordained minister, and so I'm a pastor at my church.
Wow.
And then in the other side, in the marketplace, so I'm in the corporate sector, so I work in the legal field. In risk and compliance. Nice. So I'm a senior analyst. And to the glory of God, I work for a very top global law firm. Which is, the job's just a blessing, honestly. And then on the side, but the truth is I'm an entrepreneur at heart. That's the honest truth.
Yeah.
So I do have two businesses on the side which I run. One which is an events planning business, and the other one which is Anna Gold, my baby, my passion.
Beautiful.
Which is now I recently transitioned it to an image consultancy business, which essentially just helps women in the corporate sector, in business, but also female leaders, to transform their personal brand image and to use that as a tool to kind of gain authority in your field of expertise. But
you are a very busy lady. My next question is, what's the genesis of your faith in God? Were you always a believer? Because you just like, I didn't know you were a pastor. I know you do ministry, but I didn't know you were an ordained minister.
Yeah.
So like, where did your faith in God kind of rise from?
I honestly don't like to lead with the fact that I'm a pastor. So honestly, there's times when I've met people and they don't find out that I'm actually ordained until like sometimes maybe like a year after they've known me.
Wow.
I kind of just like to lead with the fact that I'm just a Christian because I feel like it's more relatable. People feel like they can just talk to you. But when you say you're a pastor now, it's almost like, oh my gosh, yeah. So I genuinely, which is why a lot of times people don't even know until I actually say it, because I don't like to lead with it. But in relation to my faith, so I was born into a Christian home. My dad was a pastor in RCCG, an RCCG church. So before him and my mom separated and got divorced, yeah, he was a pastor at the church. So I was born into a Christian home. But honestly, my faith up until a certain age was just because of my parents. Like I would just go to Sunday school. You know, my dad is a pastor. You just have to go to church, you know, PK, your pastor's kid. So that's kind of where I think the foundation started from. But it wasn't until the age of 9. I actually had a stranger, you know, like in Nigeria, this was back in Nigeria, back home. I was born here, but we moved back home for a while. And you know how like people can just come and just knock on you. I mean, people do it here, but in Nigeria, it's kind of like very different. Like the community,
the community vibe is
beautiful. Is beautiful. Like you could actually let like strangers come into your
house,
home,
watch TV together, eat together, play around.
It was actually it's crazy. You dare not do that here.
Yeah.
So I had this lady who just knocked on the gate. And we had like a lot of house staff workers. We weren't even allowed to like go to the gate to open the doors or anything. But this particular day, I went to open the gate, and it was just this stranger. She just came in. And she said, hey, can I speak to you about Jesus? And so she just came into the house and, you know, I invited her. I don't know how. I was 9. I invited her into the home. I was like, oh, yes, come in. Took her into the living room. I was like, do you want water? Do you want biscuit? So we sat down and she evangelized to me. And even though like I'd grown up, and I was quite young, but I was able to understand. And then in that moment, I realized that actually up until this point, I didn't have a relationship with God. I was just kind of just following my dad's, you know, faith and religion. And in that moment, I actually gave my life to Christ. And I think that's when my journey began. And I had like encounters after that. And it just kind of grew from there. Obviously, not a bed of roses, ups and downs, but that's where it started.
As life usually is. That's beautiful that you mentioned that you were kind of coasting in your religion and then you got to meet God personally for yourself.
Yeah.
I would say that I had a similar awakening in either 2019 or 2020, around COVID time, was when I realized that I didn't really fully understand the gospel. So that was an awakening for me. And it's like, I've been a Christian all these years, so to speak. And then you have that moment where you actually get to understand for the first time for real and really get to accept God for the first time for real. I do wonder, like, a bit of a theological question you may be able to answer. If you're a Christian or quote unquote Christian in that sense where you know God but you don't really understand the gospel and you're going to church and you believe you know God, you believe you're a believer. You know the Bible says like in the days of ignorance God overlooked. If the trumpets should sound now and you're still in your ignorance, but you believe you're a gospel believing Christian.
But you don't understand.
But you don't fully understand the gospel. What happens? Like, are you a believer? Are you not classified as a believer?
I'm trying to understand how you can be a fully believing gospel Christian.
Yeah.
Without fully understanding the gospel.
Because I think surprised though.
Yeah, but you know what? I think fully understanding the gospel as well. Like, what does that
think okay, so like for me, in my experience, the way I can describe it is, for example, just an example of one of my beliefs that I came to realize wasn't quite right. I used to think when I was younger, I grew up, you know, as a Christian, and I was always very scared that the trumpet can sound at any time.
Yeah.
And I always felt like I'd either go to heaven or hell based on the last thing I did.
Let's think. Oh, right. Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So every night before I sleep, I'm like,
God forgive me.
Forgive me for all my sins, just in case it happens in the middle of the night.
Happens, yeah,
you know, and I know that in my mind, the last thing I did was righteous.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then I came to understand that actually Jesus saves, not my deeds. Of course, if I'm a true Bible believing Christian, there's a certain way I should be acting character wise. I believe it's. There's lots of debates about, you know, how you look and I think it's really the heart, you know, that, you know, and your character and how you treat people and, you know, how you interact with God. So I came to understand that actually Jesus saves, you know, not my deeds.
Absolutely.
Because if it was by my deeds, then I'm in soup.
Righteousness.
Based on my understanding now. So I wonder, like, if there are Christians that are still not even from a place of being boastful, but I sometimes do wonder, like, imagine if I still believed that and then rapture happened, as serious as it sounds, and it was time for God to come back for his children, would I be considered one of his children? That's my confusion sometimes.
I think that's a really good question, and I don't say I have a direct answer, but I have thoughts. And you know, the Bible tells us that no one can come to the Father except through Jesus. And if you believe in your heart and you confess with your mouth, you know, I believe that even when we get saved, we still grow in our knowledge of the gospel and of the things of God.
Yes.
I believe that it's a journey of becoming.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been saved for how many years now, and there's still things about the gospel that I'm learning literally nearly every week. Every time I read my Bible, I'm amazed at the things. I'm just like, my goodness, I didn't see this way. I didn't know this way. So I think that if you believe in the finished work of Christ, and you believe that and you accept that, I believe that that is where salvation lies. That's really good. And then I think that our knowledge continues to grow, our understanding of God, even of the cross and everything that Christ did and the gospel and who God is continues to grow as we walk with him.
That's actually really good.
That's what I think.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. I mean, because I've been confused about it for a while. Like, okay, so does that mean that if you don't fully understand, but as you're saying, you can never really fully understand, you know?
I mean, there's some like foundational things, you know, like understanding, you know, salvation, justification, you know, what it really means to be saved, right? But I think to fully understand the gospel,
it's those foundational ones, gone. It's those foundational ones that I wish there was more
discipleship.
I the minute I understood or began to understand, my heart really broke for the church. You know, like I was like, yo, how have we been so comfortable with ignorance? This has nothing to do with what I've written, by the way.
I know.
And it's just coming, but like I always say, like, God, just open our eyes of understanding, especially from a place of humility, because I know that Jesus saved me, you know, and helped me understand and begin to, like we said, you can never fully understand. But helped me begin to see, you know, like we said, salvation, justification, starting to understand those foundational, as in foundational.
These are like the
concepts,
the foundations
within
of the faith.
But all we do in church, God will give you this, God will give you that, prosperity, this, health and wealth, and those things are good, don't get me wrong, but there's a misplacement of what this Jesus is really about. But anyway, I digress. I digress.
It's a good digression.
But it's a good digression, but Okay, so my next question to you is that I know you're in ministry, but you also work corporately, which I was very excited to find out. you're not as blatant with that side of you on social media.
Yeah.
So to where you're comfortable, please do like share with us like a little bit of an insight into your career progression.
Yeah.
What was it like getting from, I don't know, uni to
Yeah.
now working in a top law firm? So let us know.
Yeah,
That's
so
a big feat.
yes. No, honestly, it's all to the glory of God.
Amen.
And so I studied law at university.
Okay.
I wanted to go all the way to practice. So even though I work in the legal field and I work in a law firm, I don't actually practice as a lawyer per se. And that's another thing. I feel like people feel like that's the only avenue through which you can actually make it in the legal field, but it's not. There's other avenues. There's other areas that you can work your way up.
Yeah.
And still do really well. So I graduated from university. I went to Nottingham Trent.
Okay.
And the truth is I did want to like do law school and I wanted to practice. I wanted to qualify as a solicitor.
Yeah.
But after I graduated, I didn't want to get a loan to go to law school.
Okay. Yeah.
Because after getting a loan to go to uni, I was just like, if I'm not going to pay for this by myself, I just don't want to get a loan. And another reason for that is that the route to qualifying as a solicitor, you can pay for your law school. You still have to do something called a training contract. Okay. And the training contract is one of those things that is very hard to get. I had friends who did their law school 4, 5, 6 years later. They still hadn't gotten a training contract. Oh, wow. And so one of the better ways to actually do it is to maybe try and find a training contract first and maybe see if you can get a firm to sponsor your law school.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that is an avenue, but it's a difficult one though. So I didn't want to get a loan. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go straight into work, see if I can save money, and then go to law school and then take it from there. Just see where I end up. Yeah. But when I went straight into work, I just never looked back. Right. To be honest.
Sometimes when you're receiving your salary, it's hard to let go.
Yeah, I'm just like, hey. No, I'm not going back. Yeah, and then during that time, I got married and at uni as well. That's where my entrepreneurial journey started, actually, at university. And so I found this new passion as well. I didn't know it. I didn't even know the term entrepreneur at the time, but I started like just side hustle. Yeah. And I really enjoyed the aspect of, starting the business and stuff like that. So I knew that was an area that I wanted to delve into more as well, which is why I was just like, you know what, I don't want to go back to law school. So I went into this sector called risk and compliance and it's an aspect in the legal field that has to do with like anti-money laundering. You might not know what I'm talking about, but conflicts of interest and things like essentially we're like the safeguarding system of the law firm. We're the ones that make sure that the law firm are not like, because law firms are like one of the top targets for money laundering actually. Because of client accounts and things like that. So we just ensure that the clients that come through the firm, they're legit. Money's legit. So we do a lot of checks. So we're the ones that actually tell the lawyers, you can take on this case, or actually no, you can't take on this case. Yeah, essentially. But there's a lot of process behind that. So that's it's a very niche area, but it's a very in-demand area as well. So if you're someone in law, if you're someone in the legal field and you're kind of finding it difficult to go via the typical route, risk and compliance is a very in-demand sector. Nice. And it pays well. It pays well. And the progression is good as well. Yeah. So that's where I started. And from there, I just never looked back. And I've just kind of worked my way up in that area.
And was it difficult getting your first job, or was it like a hookup there? Or
so I'll be honest with you, sis. When it comes to getting jobs, I hate to sound like the typical like Christian or like, but I promise you, I've never really had to work hard to get a job. Yeah. Like I feel like in this area, God's grace, favor, it's just ever since like I just ventured into working properly, I've never really, I think the first job was the only time I've ever had to apply for a job. Wow. And that was in 2016.
Tap into your grace. Shanda.
Ever since then, I mean, I was with that firm for about 3 years. Wow. But ever since then, I started being active on LinkedIn. Just kind of had a bit of a profile, which is kind of what I do as part of Anagod as well, personal branding, because there's such a thing as personal branding even within the corporate sector.
Yes, definitely.
And so, yeah, I've just, ever since then, I've never had to apply for a job. Sis. I just get approached. We have a conversation. And every time I go for it, basically, if I show up at an interview, I'm getting the job.
Wow.
I've just never had to struggle.
I love that for you.
Honestly, when I tell people, I'm just like, I wish I could give you some but I would be lying if I said, oh, I have all this, methods, and there's things you can do, there's things I do, I play my part, but the honest truth is, it's honestly been God.
I do believe that there are some things that some people are just graced for, and also like right place, right time. Experience is a big thing in the job market, especially now. Like when you're looking at those job descriptions on LinkedIn, they're telling you that they want like 1 or 2 years minimum experience, even for entry roles.
Yeah.
So you are blessed. Trust me when I say you are. I think even you know that you are blessed.
No, I know.
That's really, really beautiful. But yeah, especially for somebody that hasn't gone down the conventional route, that might, feel or look like it's a bit more secure, but still like God is securing you and holding you.
Yeah.
Even in the non-conventional route that you've taken. So that is a huge blessing, and I thank God on your behalf as well.
Thank you. Thank God.
And like you said, honestly, if any of you, you don't want to go down the typical route, start thinking about, compliance?
Risk and compliance. Yeah.
And you know what? As you were speaking, you reminded me of like shows like Scandal.
Yeah.
Where like there will be like the rooks that will come in.
And
they will take on the cases. Where were
the risk and compliance? And they weren't doing their proper checks.
Hey, there are people that will let you come to them. They weren't
doing their proper checks.
Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing where
and some people,
I
guess like some people are also like intimidated by the partners, because imagine like obviously a partner comes to you, we've been approached by this client, we want to take on this case. And I look at the case and I'm just like, something's not adding up. Like some people are intimidated to go back to the partner of the firm and say, actually, I need more information here. I need this, I need this, I need this. Something is not adding up. I need to understand the ownership of this company. It's just not looking good. There's red flags here. So sometimes people just let things slide. But the risk of letting things slide is a lot. The firm could go down. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But yeah.
Wow. Really nice insight. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Thank you.
Now, moving over into ministry, you run a brand called Anna Gold, which I love because I'm into fashion. I love fashion, and I love the fact that you've turned fashion into ministry in a very unique way, and like into a business as well.
Yeah.
So tell me what Anna Gold is all about. I have some ideas. There's a bit of fashion psychology in there. There's a bit of like personal branding, and bringing that into your everyday self, really, your entrepreneurship journey, your corporate self, whatever it is that you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So give us an insight into what Anna Gold is all about. I love the name, by the way.
Thank you.
Anna Gold.
Anna Gold. I considered actually changing my actual, like, my second name. Actually, do you know what? This is another story. So,
okay. We love stories on this show. Trust me, tell us.
This is another story. So, people know me by Tosin, right? Okay. Even I knew myself as my first name as Tosin. It was when I was actually starting this business, and I was praying and looking for a name. I was just like, you know what, I want like a very like unique name, like a Louis Vuitton or like a, and I was like, oh, my second name. So I was just, for some reason, I was just like looking through my birth certificate, and it was in that moment in 2019 that I realized my first name is actually not Tosin.
Oh,
it's Anna.
Wow.
All these years I didn't know that my first name was actually Anna.
Right.
Crazy. So that's how I actually came up with the name,
okay.
Anna Gold. And the gold, during that time, gold is like my favorite color.
Right.
And so I started the business in 2019. And it was during the time when I was going through a divorce.
Okay.
I was in the thick of it, actually, when I started the business. And so it started out as just a personal styling business. So I just kind of wanted to, I love dressing up, like I love looking good. And I was also that go-to person for my friends who they'll come to for like fashion advice and things like that.
You look very stylish today.
Oh, thank you. And just help them put like looks together and stuff. Okay. But so it was just a personal styling business at the time. But really and truly, the main aim that I started the business was I wanted to empower and help women just feel more confident. And it was because, especially during that period, obviously going through the divorce, one of the things that it really affected was my confidence and my self-esteem and, just the sense of self-worth and value. And during that time, every time, I would dress up and look good, it made me feel good. Honestly, without the inner work, that feeling good will kind of fade away after a while. But the combination of doing the inner work and also just showing up for myself, I just saw the power that it had, to make me feel confident. But I saw how that confidence sipped into other areas of my life. So it wasn't just, I feel like confident in looking good. That confidence somehow translated into me showing up in other areas. And I was just like, this is an amazing feeling. I want other women to feel this. And that's kind of where it started from in 2019. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It's kind of just transitioned from there.
We always say that we don't want to look like what we're going through, and when you look good, you feel good.
Yes.
And it affects how you show up in the world, whether it's relationally, whether it's in the corporate space, whether it's just in your day-to-day. Like, it affects how confident you are in speaking to the most random person on the road.
Yeah.
Or just even in your demeanor, your body language, just how you show up in the world. Like, it really helps.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And it seems like it was birthed from a place of pain.
Yeah.
But then slowly purpose began to kind of rise. But also it's like it healed you first. Is what I'm hearing.
It did.
It healed you first and then obviously I don't know the fullness of, we'll get into how you healed and everything, but it seems like it contributed at least to your healing, and then you used as a tool to help heal others.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So your slogan with Anna Gold is equipping and hey. H Factor wants to disturb me today. Equipping. Your slogan is equipping and empowering women to take up space.
Yeah.
Let's explore that deeper.
Yeah.
Because that's loaded. It's not just about confidence, but actually taking up space.
Yeah.
So what does this mean, and how do you achieve this through your company?
Yeah. So this actually came about. So like I said, like Anna Gold started as just a personal styling business. It was all about just the fashion and, the looking good and, helping women dress nice and things like that. But Anna Gold was something that obviously in starting it, apart from me wanting to use it as an avenue and as a tool, it was also God inspired and God led. And so throughout the entire journey, it wasn't just a business for me, which is why, honestly, regardless of whether it's making money or not, I will continue to do it. Yeah, because it's more than just the business. Yeah. And so I've always involved God throughout the entire process of the business, constantly. I always say that God is actually the CEO of my business. That's how I say it.
There's a podcast, God is my CEO.
God is my CEO.
I love the concept. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. And so I do involve him and I check in with him and, and so throughout the journey of the business, I did get to a point where, God was showing me that there is more to this. And even till now, with what it is now, I feel like I still don't have the full picture. I feel like there's much more bigger vision for it. Yeah. But I just allow God to lead me every step of the way. And so just praying about, what he would have me do next with the business. And that's what I heard. I felt like God was like, I want you to equip and empower women to take up space in the things that I've called them to do, and in their areas of in their industry or in their corporate sector, whether it's in ministry. And so I was just like, okay, this is deeper now. This goes beyond the surface level of just fashion, and obviously that's a part of it. But one thing I realized, even in just working with the different women that I had worked with, or just in just conversing with women on a day-to-day basis, I realized that, you know, a lot of people, they're just so phenomenal. Like they have all this greatness on the inside of them. Like even just when I'm just talking to somebody and I'm having conversations with them and I'm just hearing them speak, and I'm like, you have so much on the inside of you. You know, the world needs this. There's so many people that can benefit from what it is that you have to offer, but for some reason they don't see it, they don't feel it, they don't understand the value in what they have to offer, and because of that they kind of just stay in the shadows and are kind of just operating on a lesser you know, standard, or just working in less of who God has called them to be. And so the more I began to see this, the more God began to show me. And that's when I knew that, okay, what God actually wants to do, he wants me to use this business and use this, use Anna Gold as an avenue and a platform to bring that out of women, and to equip them, to empower them, to walk in the fullness of who God has called them to be. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. I always say that, you know, self-esteem is a massive factor to how we show up in life.
Yeah.
How we approach our calling, our purposes. There's certain things that, you know, we see. So you might be really good at something and you have all these ideas and dreams, and, you know, not in terms of comparison, but you might see somebody that in your mind, you know that they don't have as much as you do.
Yeah.
But there's something about their
Confidence, yeah,
and their audacity.
Yeah, that's it.
That triggers the way they move.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even you yourself, you'll be like, I wish I was this brave.
Yeah.
It's not even about talent at this point.
Yeah.
And again, we shouldn't be comparing and weighing up each other's talents and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I've come to realize that sometimes it's not about talent or what you carry.
Yeah.
But that's something inside of you that triggers and is a catalyst to you actually going out into the world and delivering that thing on whatever level God has called you, you know, to kind of release that on.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm in a stage where in my life where I'm being heavily convicted about ambition and like selfish ambition versus like God-led ambition. You know, if you guys watched the previous episode with Called Out, we've Called Out. I keep looking up there because we have a monitor up there. But this is where you guys are. Yeah, so my episode with the episode we did with Called Out Music, and we spoke about that and how
I love him, by the way.
Yeah, amazing. We really spoke about how God has really like convicted us both in different areas of our journey, but especially with me in this season of my life, I'm being heavily convicted about always going for bigger just because the world says, you know. So I want to be careful there, but I do feel like if there are things that God has led you to do on the scale that he has asked you to do it on, but because sadly, maybe through no fault of your own, lack of self-esteem.
Yeah.
You don't have as much tenacity and audacity. Yeah. Maybe somewhere when you were younger, somebody told you to keep shots.
Yeah.
You know, and you carried that through your life.
Yeah.
You know, but you have so much potential. But we thank God for people like you. Is what I'm trying to say. With all of that, in a sense of you're able to actually reach out into people and pull that thing out.
Yeah.
It's necessary.
It's necessary. Absolutely. And it's what you said. Like I've just seen how it's not the skill, it's not the talent, it's just the confidence missing. There's this sense of like inner value. Wow. Yeah, that is missing a lot of times when and you can see that this is what is holding people back.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think people don't recognize the impact that they can make with what they have to offer in the world, because the world is so big. You know, maybe that your space or your sector is so big, your industry is so big, and so you fail to see how your voice matters. You fail to see how what you have to offer matters in the grand scheme of things. And sometimes what I do try and, you know, encourage people, let them know is that your voice is needed. What you have to offer, whatever it is that God has placed inside of you, is needed. There are a people that you are called to specifically. You might be saying the same thing, but the way in which you're going to say it and somebody else is going to say it is going to be heard differently by the person that you're called to.
Yeah. I always believe that everyone's called to different people.
Yeah.
You know?
Honestly, sis. I remember when I was just like, when I would transition the business to like image consultancy, and I wanted to, host like my first masterclass, and I wanted to start building a community of women. Honestly, I feel like there were so many people doing the same thing. I feel like everyone was just doing this whole community, empowering women and all of this stuff, and going into it, and the Lord said to me very specifically, he said, there are 20 women I'm calling you to. And it didn't matter what was going on. It was so specific. He said, there's 20 women I have called you to work with. Whether you get more or not, it doesn't matter.
That's Mary Delogun, I think. I don't know why that came to mind. Yeah.
That's so impressive.
Yeah. I think that's Mary Delogun.
That's so impressive. And so because of that, I had tunnel vision now. So I'm just like, you know what? I don't even need to be competing with anybody else. I'm just looking for my 20 women.
Wow.
And so when I put it out there, even though I was so surprised by the response when I put out my first masterclass, I was so surprised by the response. I got like over 150 people sign up, which was insane, by the way. But the truth is that I didn't even care. I was just looking for my 20
You're
women.
20.
Yeah, because God said that there are 20 women who I have called you to reach and who I am calling you to equip this year. And so you're going to work with 20 women. And so I knew that regardless of the noise, regardless of what was going on, in fact, it kind of helped to take away all the comparison and the competition and the numbers, because now I had tunnel vision that there's 20 women that I'm called to. And I know that like I need to be able to discern the 20 women.
The 20.
Yeah. So I guess it's just, letting people realize that your voice matters. There are people that need what you have to offer.
Right.
And I think once people recognize that inner value and know the impact of, that what they have to offer can do, it changes everything. It changes everything.
That's beautiful. And what you said about hearing that specific instruction about your calling, because I think like that's the mistake that many creatives make, Christian creatives, not just creative, what do we call this group of people? Christians that are called into whatever sector it is.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess some people use marketplace.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Beyond the pulpit,
yeah. I guess, the term that people would use is marketplace.
Yeah, sometimes we just go out there all guns blazing, trying to just do what everybody else is doing, but we don't actually sit still. Like, yes, you heard the what's, but many of us don't sit still enough and long enough to hear the why, the how, the when, what else? The where.
The who, the where.
The who, the where. So we hear the what and we just
run. We just run. That's it. That's what we need.
We don't sit still enough to really hear like what is the fullness of this instruction. So we part here and then we go. And then we wonder why there's, restrictions, there's friction, there's another word, resistance to what we're trying to do, and we get frustrated. But it's like, did God actually call you in that direction? Was that the fullness of the instruction that God was trying to give you? So I feel like sometimes the Holy Spirit speaks in parts.
Yeah, he does.
It might give you one piece of the puzzle today.
Yeah.
And then the next one comes when you do your next fast.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is a specific instruction. Comes when you do your next fast. The next one comes when you're looking at a flower. But are we patient? No, seriously.
It's true.
But are we patient enough to really hear the fullness of the instruction?
Yeah. That's so good. And I think that it's really in the intricacies of the instruction, really and truly, because if we think about it, a lot of times, like you said, we just get the what, right? And we run with it, and we always assume that it has to be this big, grand plan for it to be purposeful and for it to be like amazing. Whereas it might not be. It might just be that actually God just wants you to serve or to minister to the community of women around you.
Even your friends and
Even
family.
your friends and family,
They're bleeding.
sis.
Can you see them?
Can you see?
Oh, God.
Sis. We just went like...
You know how many times I've been convicted of that thing?
Sis.
Do you know how many times you want to do events
and we want to reach the nations, we want to reach the globe? Your sister is bleeding. That person that is sat next to you at church needs encouragement. And we're just always looking for this global big thing, like this big thing. It's like we're just, I don't know what it is. We're just like waiting for this big thing to happen.
We always feel like bigger is better.
Yeah.
I'm going to once again plug the episode that we did on TBN UK, the marketplace. What drives you, money or God? I've not been the same since that. Since that episode, I've not. Have you listened to it?
I have.
I've not been the same.
I have.
I'm telling you, I'm a talker. I went there with my points, and the points came back at me. You know, we yappers can yap. But I was silenced. Were you silenced or were you silenced? Or were you silent or were you silenced? I was silenced.
Yeah, it's so simple but yet so profound at the same time. Yeah, sis. And I think it's been hard for me as well because I'm naturally like extremely ambitious. Oh my goodness. I'm like a go-getter. Like I'm like, what's next? Like, let's move. Like I'm always dreaming big. I'm always thinking big. Like, and so I tend to like, I can naturally tend to just, miss the intricacies and, actually just be present, even in the small and be grateful for now. And sometimes I'm just like, no, until it's here, nothing has been done or like I haven't, fulfilled purpose or, or that kind of thing. But I'm starting to see now, every single time I get off a 1-hour coaching call with the average woman, that feels like I've changed her life. That's purpose right there.
And by the way, those are worlds you're changing.
Yeah.
By changing one person's world.
Yeah.
Your impact is a domino effect. Yeah. And it spirals out into the people that they connect with and they connect with and they connect with. Yeah.
And we tend to despise those things. We tend to despise, and I honestly, I've been convicted of that as well. Because I did get to a point where I just felt really unfulfilled and ungrateful. I was just like, gosh, I've been at this thing for a number of years now. I feel like it hasn't, it's not where I would like it to be and things like that. And very quickly, the Holy Spirit reminds me, remember that lady you spoke to, that day when you were on a call and this happened and that happened? Remember that woman and I'm just like, whoa, okay. Maybe this really is it. And it got to a place where I was just like, you know what? And this is difficult to say. Even if it doesn't grow past this point, even if it doesn't go past, what really is what are we judging success by?
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't go past this point, if it remaining here, I'm still changing lives. I'm still impacting lives. I'm still equipping and empowering women one by one to take up space. Wouldn't that be classed as success?
And also, do you know one thing that people get really upset about? This isn't growing, but it's consistent. You know, it's actually a miracle for your audience to say this, to stay the same. People don't see the miracle in that. Like, let's just say you're a YouTuber and you get 300 views every time you upload, and you're frustrated. You're like, oh, when is this going to get to 1K? Do you realize that 300 people consistently
watching
show up for you?
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine you're in an arena
and 300 people show up, but we don't see it that way. Social media has ruined us.
It has. Yeah. It really, really has.
Yeah.
And I do pray that God convicts us all, because again, when I get convicted of something, I'm like, I'm so excited. I'm like, I really want everyone to know this. That's why it's like a theme in these episodes of recent. But let's come back to the questions. It kind of links in as well.
Yeah.
You also manage an events company as well, which I was like, whoa, okay, another one, thank you. Soiree and Co.
Yes.
And okay, first of all, how is that going? And also, how are you balancing it all?
Oh, child.
Are you balancing it all?
Oh, child.
Maybe
What is balance?
What is balance?
I think balance is a myth, if I'm being honest. And that's just the honest truth.
Right.
But yeah, Soiree and Co. That's also another business endeavor.
Okay.
It's an events planning business. I don't do that by myself.
Okay.
So I have a business partner myself, and a friend of mine, Dorinda.
Okay.
So I didn't actually start this business from scratch. Over COVID, we actually bought the business from the previous owner.
Interesting.
In 2020, I believe. So the business was already in existence. It was already going. Quite known within like the event space. Soiree and Co. Under the previous like management, and because obviously COVID, everything that was going on. Yeah, and the person had like other business endeavors. They just didn't have the time to commit to it, and they were just like, you know what?
Yeah,
it's not looking good.
Yeah.
And I was just like, just different contact, heard about it, and I was just like. Hey, just a thought, but I don't think it was just my thought. I felt like it was also God inspired. And so, I had a conversation with the lady. I was like, oh, she said she is thinking about selling. And I was just like, hey, so we got into conversation. We eventually bought the business, did all the contracts, lawyers, everything. So actually it wasn't something I started up.
Okay.
But I'd always been interested in like, events. I've also always been really good in like, managing projects and organizing and things like that. Whereas my friend, she had actually owned a wedding planning business before, which she just stopped doing. So I felt like she was like the perfect person to go into the business with. And it's going okay. It's going okay.
Wonderful. It looks good.
Yeah. It's going okay. We thank God. We're just doing our best. We're just being as diligent as we can be, being as consistent as we can be. We both work full time. We're both in ministry.
Wow.
So we dedicate as much of our time as we possibly can. And where we need to like outsource or get help, we'll
That's
do
usually
that.
the best way
to
do things. So are you creating balance? Even though, like, I know you said it's a myth, like, but is there a system?
Yes.
Where you're like, this, I'm doing this today.
Yes.
I do this at this time.
Yes, absolutely. So I do kind of have a system. So, for example, Tuesdays are like our Soiree and Co days. Obviously, work every day full time, but Tuesdays are like the days where we have our weekly meetings and where we do work, and also have like other days in the week where I dedicate to like Anna Gold, to Soiree and Co, and to other things, ministry, and so on and so forth. So there is some sort of system. But in some seasons, it's very evident that one area requires more attention than the other. And so I'll dedicate more time. And for example, when we have like, a really big wedding that's coming up, it's very evident that there's a lot of time that is required here. So sometimes it might mean that I'm spending less time on Anna Gold, and I'm just having to focus on Soiree and Co for that period, which, it's okay. I just kind of do it that way.
Yeah, and one thing about entrepreneurs is that we find our hands in different pots. Hey. It's not easy.
God help us.
God help us, because at some points I'm like, am I not doing too much? Do you ever feel like that?
I do sometimes. I do. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I do. But I'm honestly learning. And one of the things I did, especially with Anna Gold, I realized last year that this wasn't going to work. Actually, it wasn't going to work, because I was like, the reason why to a certain extent some areas are not doing as well, because I can't dedicate the time that is needed. And I'm only one person. I can't. I can't be consistent on social media. Do all the strategic thinking, do all the networking, do all of that. And so with Anna Gold, I did like get a business consultant. And so I do have like some help with that now. I have people like working behind the scenes who kind of help me, you know, put together, for example, the masterclass. They really help me put that together. They're helping me. This hasn't come out yet with a course that I'm putting together,
Beautiful.
like a personal branding course. And so it's really, I know that even when I'm not dedicating as much time, when even if it feels like I'm not loud on social media, there's a lot of work that is taking place behind the scenes. And I'm not doing it. Sometimes I just get the team message me and they just say, Tosin, we just need you to finalize this. And honestly, sis,
that's a lifesaver.
it's the best thing in the world. I'm just like, why did I think about this sooner? I mean, I am having to obviously pay for it, but sometimes I think that we might think that, oh, I can't do it, it's really expensive. But I think if you really like search and really think about it, you'll find like affordable ways to get the help.
Things.
Yeah.
And I think also when you begin to delegate and pay people,
Yeah.
initially it might pinch you, but I think over time you begin to make more.
Yeah. Because the time that you get back, you spend investing in something else that eventually will come back, and you'll make the
it will balance. It's just that initial pinch that's not always
the best,
the easiest. Yeah, I totally understand. I get you. Like it's not easy. Like I recently started working full time. So previously, if I've worked like quite flexibly. So agency. So I choose my hours.
Okay.
Or I might work part time 3 days a week, at most 4. Being 5 days a week is a big deal for me.
And then having to balance.
And having to balance things. And I think at some points I just had to accept that, okay, this is my capacity. Based on my current life goals, I have to kind of prioritize, you know, certain things in certain ways and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
And of course, the awakening that I've had in terms of God-led ambition versus selfish ambition, that's really helped me sit down. That's really helped me like be comfortable with slowing down, because on a normal day,
you just want to be,
hey, MoChunks, this gal, especially in the creative sector, I like to be doing the doings.
Yeah.
So slowing down has been really like different for me, but I'm really grateful to God for allowing me to be comfortable in it. And I pray that I get to the stage where, like, similar to you, I can delegate as much as possible. Yeah. I do try to delegate, but delegating costs money, which is why I was saying like it's that initial delegation.
Yeah.
And also just on that as well, as you were speaking, the Holy Spirit was reminding me of the Proverbs 31 woman. And I think a lot of, like, in Christian spaces, we use her as like almost like an excuse for more busyness. But actually, I came to number one understand that the Proverbs 31 woman and all the different businesses that were mentioned and all the different ventures that were mentioned were actually in different seasons of her life. I was just about to say number one. Because, you know, you read that and you're like, oh, so now I need to wake up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
I need to be a seamstress. Yep. I need to be into property. I need to make clothes. I need to do this. I need to work. But no, they were in different seasons of her life, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, she delegated. So she wasn't, yes, she was super, but she wasn't the superwoman in the way that we understand it sometimes. Been interpreted,
yeah.
Different seasons might look different, and that's okay.
Yeah. I'll say that honestly, sis. I think that's been the biggest game changer for me. There was something that somebody said to me one time, recently actually, and they said, Tosin, you know, I know you're very ambitious, like you're a go-getter, like you have all of these dreams, you have all of this vision, and you have all of these goals, and you're constantly feeling like you're underperforming. And they just said to me, they said, pace yourself. Honestly, I know that sounds very simple, but when the person on that phone call, I remember just thinking, you know, when somebody says something and it feels like they've just spoken to it felt like water to man. They just said, Tosin, pace yourself. You do know that there is an appointed time for everything. The fact that God has actually said this now does not mean that it's for now. Has he said it's for now? You know? But like you said, a lot of times when God shows us a picture, when we see something, we just feel like, we need to do this now. And so I think that changed everything. And realizing that, you know, life is in times and seasons, and we can't do everything at the same time. And so honestly, I still have so many endeavors in my books.
Oh yeah, we're moving at the pace of grace.
We're moving at the pace of grace.
Pace of grace.
So that was a big game changer.
Yeah.
Being changed. It's okay to just put some things to the side.
It doesn't mean procrastinate. So.
No.
So people might be listening to this and say, yes,
no.
This is the excuse.
No, we don't allow
this
that
is
one.
what I've been waiting for to validate my laziness. That's not what we're saying.
No.
We're saying move at the pace of grace. If you need to slow down. And really achieve this thing that God is calling you to.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna get a bit emotional now.
Yeah.
Not emotional, but we're gonna go a bit deeper. This segment is called Deeper with Mo. Where we guests now delve into their stories and their journeys. But this part is a bit deeper because matters of the heart. It's a tough spot. And I fully understand that. In 2019, we already spoke about, what birthed Anna Gold. You went through, sadly, a divorce.
Yeah.
And within the Christian space, it's somewhat of a taboo. Not so much anymore. I would say that better. When I began to listen to like sermons, like when you're first in your Christian girl walk and you listen to sermons, and it was like a big deal. Now we're having more Christian women come out and tell their stories. Christian men as well tell their story. Although men are not as vocal. That kind of thing. That doesn't mean it's not happening to them as well. But it's becoming a bit more okay to tell divorce stories because the narrative that we're sold in church is that God hates divorce. And yes, he hates divorce. But sometimes you find yourself in circumstances that you couldn't have planned. Yeah. And unfortunately, you're not able to maneuver your way out of. So you went through a divorce in 2019. What happened? To where you're comfortable, what happened? Do you feel like... Did you see it coming? Did you feel like there was... like there's some times where like you see something happen and you're like, oh, I see how I contributed to that. Or was it like a blindside? Were you blindsided? Talk to me about that. To where you're comfortable.
Yeah. So I actually have like a video speaking about this at length, like my testimony video. So I'm sure I'm gonna like...
I'll insert it.
Yeah. I'm sure I'm gonna not like go into as much detail. But yeah, so where do I even start from?
The beginning.
Okay.
I always comfort people. I comfort myself with that. Yeah, start from the beginning.
Start from the beginning. Right. Okay. So I got married in 2014. I was 23 at the time. Some people argue that I was quite young, but I don't think I was. I felt like I was quite mature. I knew what I was getting myself into. I was already in ministry at the time. We both were. Went through like, the whole process, with our covering and our pastors and, marriage counseling, all of that's basically,
You did the right
we did the right things.
You took the steps.
Yeah, we took the steps, we prayed. It wasn't something that I just, went into. This was like I guess, even though I don't really like this phrase anymore because, I guess what you could call like kingdom marriage, But yeah, so we did the right things. We knew what we were doing. We weren't just like two naive people. This was somebody that was, friend of mine. We started off as friends. We met at university. And I was at a stage in my life where honestly, sis, I was just so on fire for God. I just wanted to know God more. I was just hungry for more of God. And I didn't care about anything else. I think it was about my second year of uni. And so I was in awe of this guy, not in a way of like wanting to be with him. In fact, that was the last thing on my mind.
Right.
I was just in awe of his relationship with God. I think because of where I was at during that period, I was just drawn to anything that looked like what I wanted in terms of my relationship and my walk with God. This was somebody that just, when he would interpret scripture or break down scripture, it was just amazing to me. And we were in like similar age groups. I'm just like, I just never met anybody like, that was like in our age bracket that was this mature in the things of God. And so that was kind of where our friendship was birthed from. And he taught me a lot. Until today, I still think that there is a lot of, things that kind of is a part of who I became as a Christian in terms of like the foundations of me growing that actually came from him. And so, we were friends for about a year, and then we started courting, and we courted for about 3 years. And then we got married in November 2014, and then we were married for about 4 years technically. And so honestly, I actually enjoyed marriage until the end. My ex-husband, during courtship, obviously we had our ups and downs in courtship, right? We had our ups and downs in courtship. It wasn't perfect, but he was amazing.
Yeah.
He was amazing to me. Like he I mean, I don't know what to say. He was just great. He was kind, he was loving, loved God. And so, but I mean, not everybody was in support of our relationship, I'm going to be honest. So there were some people that felt like, he still had a lot of growing up to do.
Okay.
Some people felt like...
Is that emotionally or spiritually or?
I would say more emotionally, and maybe like more like character-wise, in a way. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I didn't necessarily see
what they were saying.
Okay. There were some people who kind of shared the sentiment that I could do better for some reason. I don't know why. But so there was a little bit of like, not necessarily, not everyone was kind of in support. But we still kind of, went ahead and did our thing. And so, we got married. Like I said, I enjoyed marriage. Marriage was great. I wouldn't say that marriage was terrible. It was only until the end. Now, a year before he actually, because he initiated the separation and the divorce, a year before that, I did notice in the marriage that something was different. It wasn't like treating me badly or anything, but I could tell a kind of distance a little bit. And so I would speak to him about it, and I would say, I can tell like something is wrong. Like there's something is not okay. Something isn't right. It's like, what's going on? Have I done something wrong? All of this stuff. And he would just kind of brush it off and be like, oh, nothing. It was Christmas of 2017, so December going into 2018. My family were around for Christmas, and we were just in the car. We went shopping, we're in the car, and I just turned to him and I said, hey, we're about to go into a new year, like whatever it is, let's just put it behind us, like, just talk to me, let's just start afresh, that sort of thing. And then that's when he said to me, Tosin, I don't want to be married to you anymore. So I was blindsided. I had no clue. I didn't know anything like that. I didn't know he had been thinking about anything like that. I mean, our marriage, when I say our marriage wasn't perfect, it's like, like the usual like fable that couples would have, he'll be like, no more issues, he'll be like, oh, I think you can work on your submission and respect, sometimes the way you talk to me, and I felt like you could be more emotionally present sometimes.
Was it Nigerian?
No, South African, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, please go on.
No, it's okay. So just the usual, respect submission issue, the usual, I feel like you can be more emotionally present, love me more, and be more romantic, those kind of things. But I didn't think that it was anything that was enough to have got. We weren't like fighting, before that point. I
get you.
So I was just a bit like, what's going on? I really thought that I was like, no, he must just be going through like midlife crisis or something. But no, it wasn't a midlife crisis. But it wasn't making sense, sis. It wasn't making sense. Regardless of whether or not we had the little issues, it still wasn't making sense why he wanted a divorce.
Yeah.
And so for a long time, he wasn't really telling me what the real problem was.
Okay.
And so I went through this whole period just being confused. And I would ask him, what is it? And then he would bring up stuff like, oh, he felt like he never really dealt with a lot of things that happened in our courtship before the marriage.
Okay.
And I'm just like, okay, He was like, oh, but there's a lot of things that, maybe you used to do. And I feel like those things changed, but maybe I never really just moved on from it.
Okay.
So I'm just like, right. Okay, so then let's work on those things then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's talk through it. Let's go counseling. Let's do therapy. Like, I wasn't fighting. Everything you brought up, even though it didn't make sense to me, I was still like, okay.
So let's work on it.
Let's work on it then. It's no big deal. He's just like, no, I've been done in this marriage for over a year.
Wow.
So this is just me letting you into my feelings a year later. So I'm not at a point where I'm considering or like up for like discussion. I made a decision a year ago. So I said, oh, so for the last year, you've just kind of been absent emotionally, which I sensed.
Yeah.
And it was confusing because that year is when he initiated a conversation about having children.
Wow.
That year, there was a lot of pivotal things that happened in that year. So it was very confusing for me. Anyway, to cut the long story short and to avoid the confusion, it was only later I actually found out that the main reason he actually wanted a divorce is because he was having an affair with my best friend. And he did move on with my best friend. Yeah, I know.
So
It's such a the heartbreak and the loss was not just from the perspective of the marriage. I was also grieving the loss of a friend. So it was, I did have a lot of support.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I did, from family, from really close friends, from my covering, from my church. You can go about things the right way. You can tick all the boxes, and it's life.
It's life.
And things can still go wrong. You might not be able to have an explanation for it. You might not be able to understand it, unfortunately.
I think that's why we put our faith and our hope in God.
Exactly.
And not in man. Not in the possessions that we have.
Yeah.
Not in our jobs.
Yeah.
Not in the blessings. Not even in the lessons. Just God is the most consistent. We normally wrap up the show with like more life gems, but I feel like we've literally pulled it out right there. Like those, I would say that my life gem is put your trust in God, and not in things and people.
That's it. That's it.
And I would say very easily, you also said you can do all the things right and things still go wrong. That's life.
Yeah.
Guys, because we're running out of time, we're not rounding up in the usual way, but thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Tosin, for coming on the show and sharing so candidly. God bless you. You guys, do make sure you like this episode if you liked it. Share it with your friends. Comment below on the things we spoke about and subscribe to this channel for more. Where can we find you really quickly?
Yes, so mostly on Instagram. So my personal page, Tosin_AG, or you can follow my business page, Anna Gold Limited.
Fantastic.
Any one of those two.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you at home for tuning in. Do make sure you like this episode if you liked it. I'm meant to be looking here. Do make sure you like this episode if you liked it. Share it with your friends. Comment below on the things we spoke about. And subscribe to this channel for more. Until next time, guys, peace and love. Peace and chunks. Bye.
Hey.